Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
We are all right. We are all right. Obviously, the events of the last 6 or 7 hours in Las Vegas color every conversation we have, so we want to put that out there, and we know you probably share those same thoughts. It's been a brutal
Yeah,
stretch here.
I just woke up and had a notification and was reading about it. I went to bed not knowing about it.
Yeah, I think that's the same as most of us who woke up and got the notification, and it's now unfortunately, I have to say, the worst mass shooting in American history took place in Las Vegas, a city where Stoney's been, I've been. I'm guessing you probably have been at some point in your life as well.
Yeah, yes, I have been, and it's awful.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't even imagine what the scene was like. It's awful.
It's awful. I know. So I just want to put that out there so people don't think we're trying to belittle what's happening there, because it's awful. I'm wondering what your feelings are going back to baseball now that you managed your last game yesterday. I mean, you've had a week to know this was coming. Maybe you knew it was coming for longer than that. But what was your general overall feeling?
I kind of said this after the game. It was just kind of a solemn feeling. I wasn't upset about it or sad about it, but I wasn't excited that it was over either. It was just kind of I guess it was a little bit of mixed emotions in that sense. It was almost a sort of a numbness. Might be the best way to describe it. Actually, Kinsler did the managing. I talked to him before the game, and he actually was pulling the levers yesterday. But I don't know. I guess it was a little strange.
So he's 0-1 right now, huh?
Yeah, I'm calling for his head.
Now, when you look back, and we all Monday morning quarterback stuff, obviously, as you know, second guessing. Is there anything within not just this year, but in the 4 years that you could pinpoint, say, I should have done this differently?
I mean, strategically, there's always. I mean, this happens in any sport,
right,
with any head coach or manager, where you had two choices. I could go with A or B, and you went with A, and afterwards you go, maybe I should have gone with B. But I wouldn't say there's anything major.
Because we've been, reports came out that, maybe, you were too close to some of the players and you weren't a hard ass. And maybe in the last couple of years, that hurt the team. Do you buy any of that?
No. And I don't. I've read some of the reports, and they're not all accurate. So I don't get caught up in that. I'm not worried about it. It was a good clubhouse. There wasn't. There was no fighting or anything like that. And the guys got along. They did their jobs well. They came to work and did their jobs, and they were always pointing in the right direction, trying to win games. It just didn't work.
I want to ask you about Victor Martinez. That was also pointed out that he might not have been the leader the last couple of years that he was, and whether you wanted to take him out of the lineup and DL him last year and batting him fourth this year. Was Victor a problem at all?
No. And then this year, of course, he had the health issues with the heart issues, the health scare. I know a lot of people wanted Victor out of the lineup, but you always have to look at your options when you're going to make a move like that. Quite frankly, Victor was our best option, and he was a left-handed bat in an extremely right-handed lineup.
We're talking to Brad Ausmus here on 97.1 The Ticket. I get that a lot of these questions that we're going to ask you might not have the answer to until you have a few months of perspective, but what do you think you know now about managing that you didn't know 4 years ago? What are maybe the lessons you learned that you could take forward in your managing or coaching career?
The one thing that, and I don't think I could have known this, and I don't think managers 10 years would have known this, would have been the impact of social media, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
The impact of social media has changed the way the media handles and interacts with managers. It's just changed the format. First of all, it's no longer a 24-hour news cycle. It's more like a 2-hour news cycle. There are times where questions that are coming from media members are actually coming from Twitter. They're getting them from Twitter. It's not like John Lowe, who would really enjoy the game, love the intricacies of the game, would ask questions whether something worked or didn't work strategically. He'd ask, well, I saw so and so up. What were you thinking here? But now it's all results based, and a lot of the stuff comes from Twitter at times, and that's kind of changed the way that managers and the media interact.
And what about the analytics? Has that changed things the way you manage as well?
Well, I mean, the Tigers were kind of behind the times in the analytics. We were near the basement in terms of analytics. We didn't have a ton of analytics. Now, Al has begun and this is really from a computer standpoint, hired and they've begun building last year. They began building the whole system. So we didn't even I didn't really have access to it. It won't be available to the manager probably next year. I'm not even sure it'll be ready for the beginning of the season. It takes, literally a couple of years to build out these programs, these systems. It'll probably be ready at some point next year, early in the season, for the manager to use on field for information involving decisions that would help or the team, during the course of the game. But we didn't really have that at all.
Why not?
I kind of had to do it. Well, it was just never, the system was never built out. Most teams have proprietary systems that they hire people to build out, and you have to hire. It's not like you buy one. It's not like you hire one guy and all of a sudden he builds out a program, and this takes months and months to do. And they have been in the process of doing it. We just didn't have it available to the baseball operations department at the big league level.
Because it seems like to the average fan. I mean, Joe Madden took the Rays to the World Series in what, 08, 07, whatever year that was. So we're talking about 10 years ago. And to the layman, it seems like they were way ahead of the curve on advanced metrics. That was 10 years ago. So you're saying that, not to throw people under the bus, but the Tigers have just been lagging.
Yeah, they have. They were behind the times, and they're not the only one. There are other teams too that were in a similar boat. But the Tigers were definitely towards the bottom when it came to the analytics department. There really wasn't much of an analytics department when I arrived here. I think it consists of 2 people, and really it was more like 1.5 because one guy had other duties besides looking at the numbers. So it was an extremely small department, and they built it up. They've hired, I couldn't even tell you how many people they've hired at this point, but it's a lot bigger group of people that are working on it, and it just wasn't available. So it wasn't a huge part of my daily job. Most of the stuff that I got, most of the analytic information we outsourced, and I kind of had to go through it with my own eyeballs and figure out what information was important.
Now, when you were hired, this was a veteran team coming off what happened in 2013. In retrospect, would a veteran manager have been better for that team as opposed to somebody who never managed before?
I don't know if I can give you the answer to that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been. I'm not saying it would have been. You just don't know. It probably would have depended on the personality of that particular person somewhat. But I've said before, I said you certainly could make the argument that with that type of team, you might want more experience. I understand that.
Let me put that question a different way. If you could create the perfect scenario to walk into as a first-time manager, in hindsight, would it have been better for you to go to a team like, I don't know, the 2018 Detroit Tigers as opposed to 2014 Detroit Tigers?
Well, keep in mind, I want to win.
Yeah,
so I'd rather have the 2014 team.
Yeah, but I'm just saying to learn on the job and figure everything out. I don't know. It's just a thought. What do you?
No, and I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that doesn't hold water. I'd rather win.
Right. So what now? What do you immediately, long term? What do you think your baseball future is? I mean, I'm guessing you want to take at least a little time to spend some time with your family and what?
Yeah, I mean, immediately I got to go pack up my office down in Comerica. So that's first on the docket, and then I don't really know. I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't spoken to anyone from any other organization. I'm going to travel to the Northeast and visit my dad and daughter at college. Go to New York City for a couple of days, and then I'm going to head back home to California, and I'll just kind of see what happens. I'm not calling other teams trying to get a job. I'm just going to hang out and see what happens for the time being.
So I heard you say you're just going to be a surfer bum for a while, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be a surfer bum, but I do that during the off season. So I'm sure I'll catch a few waves, so to speak.
Do you want to manage again?
Yeah, I'd like to. I do. I love the competition, the in-game kind of the mental side in game. And I like the people. You know, I've been around baseball people, baseball players for the better part of 30 years, or it's been 30 years now almost. So I think I would definitely miss that.
When you get your next job, can you do anything in the contract to guarantee that you get a bullpen?
I'm going to do my research beforehand. I know that. There's no question that experience on the job managing would probably is a huge asset. There's no question it's a huge asset.
I know the wins and losses didn't come the way you wanted them to, Brad. But overall, when you reflect back on your 4 years here as manager, is there a time, a moment, a player, a situation that sticks out to you that you really do look back on fondly?
The one thing I look on most fondly is the first year when we went to the playoffs, clinching and everyone was dumping champagne on each other. It was really kind of, the first and third year here, we did well and won. Didn't make the playoffs in the third year, but we won. And then in the other 2 years, we didn't. It was really kind of split in half. There was half the time here was winning seasons, half the time wasn't. It's much more fun when you're winning. I think this year was once we started trading guys, was tough from a winning standpoint. When you're not winning and you're trying to keep guys pointed in the right direction, that's always a little more difficult because it's not as fun to go to the field.
Final thing for me, how far do you think realistically this team is from being good again?
It's hard to say. It's going to be a few years. They do have some young pitching. If that group of young pitchers stays healthy and they all develop the way you would expect, they're still probably 2 or 3 years away. And even once they get here, it's going to take time for them to acclimate themselves to the big league environment and getting big league hitters out. So you figure that's another year or two. There's not a lot of guys who come up like Michael Fulmer and dominate the way he did. Most guys usually take a season or two. And then really they've restocked the position players a little bit with some of the trades, but they're still thin at the position player in the minor leagues. From a position player standpoint, they're thin, and they're really going to have to acquire some young talent or draft some young talent. I guess the plus for Al is he gets the first pick this coming draft. But it's going to be a little time, that's for sure. It's not going to happen overnight.